Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When we hear the word philosophy, the first thing that may come into our mind is the amazing words of wisdom and possibly the images of all these great philosophers in a thinking posture. While this might be the normal and public perception of the word, it is actually much more complicated than it seems. Literally, philosophy means love of wisdom, and in a broader sense, it is a process of understanding the reason behind existence, like understanding the idea of a creator, the meaning of life, good and evil, and all these big queries. Now, when we come to Islam, we already have this divine framework of beliefs. The Quranic verses and the prophetic narrations had already explained all these subjects and provided answers to all these profound questions. And we believed it because we are born into it. Though we can still question things and go look for answers in a reasonable and intellectual manner, but not everyone is capable of doing so anyway, because it requires high level of literacy and enormous amount of thinking capacity. And we all know that thinking is difficult, so we settled for the things that we already knew are true without questioning, and that's totally fine too. But what about the disbelievers like atheists or agnostics? Surely we cannot get them to believe in the idea of a sole creator and that he sent message through his prophets when they don't even believe in a God to begin with. So how can we remedy this issue? Well, the 7th century AD is a time when people from all parts of the Mediterranean started pouring into the Islamic Caliphate, holding different beliefs and practices. Although some of these people converted to Islam, some of them did not, and they often criticized the Islamic beliefs. So the Islamic scholars stood up to this challenge, and they were fortunate enough to live in a time when the translation movement was at its core, around mid-8th to 13th century AD. Some of them were even part of this epic cultural movement, where various books about different intellectual disciplines, particularly the Greek and Roman logic and philosophy, were translated into the Arabic language. And that is when the Islamic world witnessed a brand new intellectual discipline, which is the Islamic philosophy. The renowned philosophers like Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, and later Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, and much later Sadr al-Muta'allihin. Though each of these scholars have their different tastes and styles in their approach towards philosophy. However, their effort to explain and come out with logical reasons and arguments proving the existence of God and other sensitive and controversial matters challenging the Islamic world throughout the past centuries became their uniting factor. And thus, rational and philosophical arguments became one of the methods we now use to prove the existence of God. These arguments contain philosophical concepts and terminologies that need a long and detailed explanation. And since this is just a review and not a philosophy class, it will be sufficient to just mention one of the simplest arguments that I jotted down from our previous source, and that is the book by Sheikh Misbah Hezdi, which is called Theological Instructions. Existence through intellectual perception is either necessary existence or possible existence. Intellectually, no existent lies outside these two assumptions, and every existent cannot be known as a possible existent, because a possible existent always needs a cause. If all causes were possible existents, each one of them in turn requiring a cause, no existent would ever come into being. In other words, an infinite series of causes is impossible. Therefore, an infinite series of causes is compelled to terminate in an existent, which is not caused by any other existent. In other words, it is the necessary existent. So with this short argument, the Islamic scholars managed to prove the existence of a higher being, the creator of the universe, which we refer to in Islam as the only one God. This is also said to be one of the simplest arguments regarding this subject. Though it is constructed with a few logical syllogisms, it however doesn't need any sense perception or experimental sciences as a premise. That's all for today. Peace be upon you.